the angel, Esav's angel. It's a very weird story to say the least, because how did it happen? Why did it happen? Why isn't Torah telling us about this? A lot of questions, but we're gonna discuss some of it, and we're going to make sense of some of it to our personal lives. So let's go through the facts that we know from the Torah. Um, or actually, better yet, no, let's do this. What we want to come away with tonight is an understanding of what is the takeaway of experiences that we have in life. When we have an experience, somebody has, let's say, a crazy experience, like near-death experience, or they have something happen to them, or something positive happens to them, and they want to know, what should the takeaway be? How should my life be different tomorrow than it was yesterday, than it was today? What should the takeaway be? How should my life be different? What lessons can I take from my life experiences? How to apply that into action is what we're going to learn from tonight's class. Is what are the action steps when something crazy or amazing happens to us? That's the takeaway that we want to come away with. So what is the story? All right, I'm going to paraphrase from the text on the screen. This is the text of the Torah. And I'm going to paraphrase it based on a little bit of what we know from the commentaries. So Yaakov is coming back with his family, and he knows that Esav is getting ready to greet him with an army to kill him. And Yaakov tries to preempt the spiritual source of the enemy. And I want to explain this for a second. Every physical existence in this world has a spiritual source. Okay? It's a little bit hard for us to understand that sometimes, because sometimes we want to just look at evil and understand that it's pure evil, and it is, at least in our eyes, but it is kept in existence by a spiritual source. And what Yaakov was trying to do is, knowing that Esav is obviously evil and wanting to kill him, he was trying to get to the spiritual source of Esav and be able to preempt the battle, the physical battle that was to take place between Esav and his army and Yaakov and his family. And it says that he battled the men. It doesn't say who he battled. It says he battled the men throughout the entire night. And the man, in other words, and we happen to know through the commentaries, the man being the angel, Esav's angel, couldn't win, and he was only able to hit him in the shank bone, um, and um, and the rest is history. Now, the last verse, is what matters. The battle happened all night. Yaakov won. He took a hit, but he still won. Okay, everyone understands that in a battle, you're not going to necessarily come out clean. You might win, but you're still going to take a hit. So he took a hit, which we're going to learn about that in a little bit, in just a little bit. But verse 27 is the key. That's what we're going to focus on. So Yaakov now is the winner, and he has this man who is the angel in his grasp. And the angel wants to be let go. He says, "Let me go, for dawn is breaking." In other words, the night is over. So now the battle is over. And Yaakov said, "Do not, I'm sorry." And Yaakov says, I will not let you go until you bless me. Okay? This is
You need to mute Chaim.
Okay, I'm muting everyone.
Thank you.
All right, sorry. So this is our first real weird situation going on. When I say weird, I don't mean in a bad way. I just mean in a confusing way. Like, we have to obviously understand what's going on here. Yaakov is battling this angel of Esav. He wins, he beats him, and now he wants the angel to bless him. Okay, that's weird. Because if an enemy is an enemy, why do you want their blessing? Why do you need their blessing? You won. You're obviously better than the enemy. What do you need their blessing for? What do you need from them? You won. So what's going on there? Another thing that happens here, and I don't know if we have. I think we have the text. Do we have the text? Yeah. The angel asks, instead of blessing him, instead of outright blessing him, the angel asks Yaakov, "What is your name? What's your name?" which is another weird thing, knowing that he's an angel. He obviously knew he battled this guy all night, and he asks, "What's your name?" And just think of any battle going on. If someone fights somebody a whole night, then at the end of the battle, like, "What's your name? Who am I battling?" What was the whole point? So that's another weird situation going on here. And Yaakov says, "My name is Yaakov." And the angel replies, "No, your name is no longer Yaakov. You shall no longer be called Yaakov, but your name is now Yisrael, Israel, because you have commanding power with Hashem, and with men you have prevailed." And then Yaakov asked the angel, "What is your name?" Okay? He wanted to return the favor. Like, what is your name? And the angel said, "What do you need to know my name?" And he blessed him. And then Yaakov called the place Peniel. And what does it mean, Peniel? I saw a man of God face to face, and my soul was saved. Okay? These last couple verses is what we're going to focus on. Not the battle itself, but the post-battle. What happens when you win a battle? If you're humble, you're happy that you came out victorious, and you're humble that you won, fine. But at no point do you want the enemy's blessing. Like, this whole conversation is weird. What's going on here? And what is this battle in the first place? Man versus angel. Okay, so Rashi's going to first clarify some basics. Let's I'm skipping that other piece. Let's go straight to Rashi. Rashi makes it very clear. Pishur Rabbeinu, our sages have explained that this is the guardian angel of Esav. So a guardian angel in this case means the spiritual source of Esav. Guardian angel does not mean guardian angel, by the way. This is a bad translation. If you look in the Hebrew, Sarai shel Esav, which means the Sar, the spiritual source. Every nation has a Sar, has an angel, the source of which the Sar of that nation represents that nation to God. So Esav had an angel. It's not a guardian angel. It's just an angel that's the spiritual source of that entity. So Esav's entity was represented by a spiritual source, and that spiritual source was this angel, and that's who Yaakov was battling. Why was he battling the angel? And how could a human being battle something spiritual? That's another question as well, what we have to understand. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of commentaries here, and there's going to be a lot of trying to understand what really happened. Let's not get lost in the technicals. For the sake of this class, and for the sake of what we want to come away with, we're not going to get lost in the disputes of who says what, because it's not the point of tonight's class. We're not going to become, experts in the different opinions of what happened. What we are going to try to understand is the deeper meaning, the layers of the deeper meaning of what's happening here, so we could take away the message that the Torah is trying to teach us with this encounter Yaakov had with this angel, and why this conversation, most importantly, this conversation took place, and what message we're supposed to take away from it. So number one, the battle was about the birthright. The whole battle from the very beginning of Yaakov having to run away from his brother was about who deserves the birthright and deserves the blessings from Yitzchak. Yaakov stole them according to Esav, because even though Yaakov felt he purchased the birthright from Esav, Esav still claimed that Yaakov impersonated him and stole the blessings, and he was going to kill Yaakov. That was the idea. So the battle with the angel was still a battle over who deserved the birthright. So what is Rashi? So what does it mean when Yaakov is asking for a blessing? So Rashi says that if you don't bless me, the battle's not over. Because remember, this whole past year we talked about how Rashi is here to simplify and here to make things understandable for the 5-year-old. So Rashi is going to simplify this in a way that what Yaakov was simply trying to say by bless me is, let's call an end to this battle once and for all. I don't want to battle again. In other words, if I won, but I don't want this to be the winning of the battle and not the winning of the war. I want you, the spiritual source of Esav, to acknowledge that the blessings that my father gave me are legit, and you're not going to kill him, and the war is over. It's done. It's not a ceasefire, it's an end of the war. It's not a temporary ceasefire, but it's the end of the war. So the blessing is a blessing of simply acknowledging that I deserve the that I have the blessings. So that's Rashi's, simple understanding of it. Now, how does Rashi explain how he changed his name? So the way the angel is acknowledging Yaakov having the blessings was by saying that you're no longer Yaakov. What is Yaakov? Remember, how did Yaakov get his name? So it says that when Yaakov was born, the Torah says that he was holding on to the ankle of his brother. Yaakov is from the name Akev. So in other words, deceit. The name Yaakov comes from deceit. So what the angel was saying is you're no longer the person who got the blessings through deceit. You're now Yisrael through nobility. Through Yisrael means Yashar, which is standing tall. That you're now rightfully so the noble priest of having the blessings and basically acknowledging that he has the blessings. And then basically saying Hashem will reveal himself to you in base scale, and he will bless you, and I will be there, and I will be there as well to admit that you're right to the blessing. So basically, the angel was giving Yaakov exactly what he wanted. Now, and this is, by the way, the difference in the names over here. So this is Yaakov. Yaakov means trickery, and Yisrael means standing tall, standing above. Okay. There's more to the story, though. And we're going to go a little deeper to another layer of the We're going to go through the Medrash, but we're also going to go through the Rashbam, Rashi's grandson. That's going to give another layer of content that's going to really blow your mind in terms of what was happening here. The verse also says earlier that Yaakov was left alone. That when this battle that Yaakov had, he was alone. If you look at the beginning here, by Yivasar Yaakov Levado, Yaakov was left alone, and that's when the man wrestled with him. So let's go back to actually the source of the verses. This is very important. Sorry. Verse 25. This is when he was traveling with his family, Yaakov at one point was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the break of dawn, right? So even though we were focused on verse 27, which is the after the battle, verse 25, where it says Yaakov was left alone, those three words is where the Medrash is focused on over here. And you'll see why this is very important. So the Medrash says like this. Yaakov was left alone and the man wrestled with him. So Rabbeinu Brachia says, in the name of Rabbi Shimon, that there is no one like God, because who is God? God's alone. There's nobody like God. There's no one on the level of God, except Yisrael, Yaakov, whose name is Yisrael. Because just as it says about the Holy One that God alone will be exalted, so too says about Yaakov that Yaakov was left alone. So he's basically comparing a human being, Yaakov, to God, which is crazy. And which is like, how could you compare how could you compare a human being to God? So the Rashbam, the Rashi's grandson, comes at this from a very different perspective. And this is where the Rebbe is going to learn the light lesson. So let's just recap quickly what we know until now. Yaakov was battling Esau's angel. He was trying to put an end to this battle once and for all. However, one thing we don't really know is, did Yaakov look for the angel, or did the angel look for Yaakov? Yaakov was left alone and the angel battled him. I kind of hinted before that Yaakov was like out to try to end the battle, but what really happened? Was the angel seeking Yaakov out, or was Yaakov seeking the angel? And it makes a difference. And number two, we know that once Yaakov won, he wanted to put an end to it. He said, please bless me. And his name was changed to Yisrael after that. By the way, just think about this for a second. The entire name of Israel, not just the land of Israel, but the children of Israel, which is the Jewish people, the name Israel is not just a land, it's an entity, it's an identity, it's everything. Where does it come from? It comes from the angel of Esav. It comes from the evil angel of Esav that Yaakov beat. It doesn't come from the holy angel Michael. It doesn't come from God in the Torah. I mean, it comes from the Torah, but it comes from Esav's angel. That's the source of the name Israel. And how did that come about? Through a battle, through Yaakov winning a battle. And that's going to be important in a second, because you'll understand that you can only reach that kind of level through a battle. What the Rashbam here is going to try to say is that Yaakov was making a mistake, a very human mistake this night. And we have a hint to this. If you look in the verse, I'm not going to go back again on the slide because I just don't want to mess with the slides again. But if you look in the verse, and I stressed it when we read it, that the angel said, "It's almost dawn, let me go. The night is almost over, let me go." What does it have to do? If a battle is a battle, like when there's a war going on, so, you know, sometimes, yeah, cover of darkness helps you, but like if a war is going on, like you don't pay attention, like, oh, it's light now, we're going to stop fighting. What does the dawn have to do with the battle? Why is it saying it's almost dawn, let me go? So what the Rashbam is saying is hinting here is that Yaakov was actually not trying to fight the angel. He was actually trying to run away from the angel. So let's see what he says. And he arose that night. Yaakov intended to flee by a different route, and that's why he crossed the river at night. We find the same with David. King David, when he fled from Avshalom, he too traveled through these same places along the Jordan, and Machanaim that Yaakov passed at night, and that night. And Yaakov was left alone, meaning he had already brought over everything he owned. There was no one left to cross but him. So basically, he already brought his whole family over. So now he's just the last one. He wanted to cross after them because he was planning to escape by a different route so that Esav wouldn't encounter him. He was trying to avoid Esav. He was trying to protect himself. He wasn't trying to encounter, he wasn't looking for a fight. He was trying to use the cover of darkness to escape any challenges that he could find. What happened? But the angel still found him and caught him and prevented him from escaping. So he would have to face the situation and witness the fulfillment of God's promise, namely that Esav would not harm him. What the Rashbam is saying is a little bit different than Rashi. Rashi puts it very simple. Yaakov battled the angel because Yaakov wanted to put an end to the battle, put an end to this once and for all, and wanted the blessing to say that this is an end of the dispute. Admit that I get the blessings, and that's it. The Rashbam is saying something a little bit deeper. And he's saying that Yaakov was a human being. And a human being naturally wants to avoid conflict. A human being wants to avoid pain or wants to avoid discomfort. If you don't have to deal with a tough situation, avoid it. How many times do we procrastinate something we don't want to have to do? How many times do we say no to something because we don't want to have to deal with it? And maybe rightfully so. So Yaakov was avoiding this situation of confronting Esav. But here's the problem. Yaakov had a promise from Hashem that Esav is not going to harm him, that Hashem's going to protect him. So Hashem let the angel catch Yaakov, so Yaakov could witness firsthand how Hashem is protecting him and show him that even though you're trying to escape, I'm going to show you, Hashem is saying, I'm going to show you that you're going to be just fine. You could battle this and you're going to be just fine. Now, and this is why Yaakov took the hit to the thigh, because that was like a little bit of a punishment that he didn't trust Hashem, that Hashem's going to protect him. Now, I'm not going to read this text. This is basically the Rashbam going on to say that, Moshe also didn't want to go, to warn Paro when Hashem told him to go to Paro, and Yonah didn't want to go to his mission. And each time they were punished because they didn't want to fulfill their mission. And each time they had a legitimate reason. But I'm going to skip this for now because that's not what I want to focus on right now. This is what I want to focus on. What Yaakov witnessed Hashem's miracles for 22 years, I think we learned this last week, or was it on Shabbos that we learned this? But the point is, we know that Yaakov witnessed Hashem's miracles when he was in Lavan's house, and time after time, Hashem made him very successful. Hashem talked to him. Hashem, he saw the ladder in his dream. He knew Hashem was going to protect him. So what was he really running away from? Did he think Esau's really going to kill him? What was he really like? What was he really afraid of? Like, it says Yaakov. This is Yaakov, who was the Bechir, the chosen of the patriarchs. Like, what was he really afraid of? And the same goes for the others, by the way. Moshe and Yonah, I mean, they all knew that they're going to be okay. So what was Yaakov really afraid of? So the truth is that it wasn't fear of pain. As much as I said before that Yaakov was being human, because we have to relate to him somehow, it wasn't fear of pain, or it wasn't fear of discomfort, or it wasn't fear of harm or any of that thing. It was it was humility. It was a sense of, why am I worthy of this task? Why am I worthy to be the one that God does this miracle for? Just like Moshe said, why am I worthy to be the one to talk to Paro? Ani Arel Susaim, I have a speech impediment. Why am I worthy to be the one to be God's messenger to Paro? And Yaakov is, why am I worthy to be the one to convert Esav into a kind person? I'm not, or to convert this evil into positivity. I'm not the person. So the running away wasn't running away from God, it was running away from himself. It was running away from his abilities. It was running away from his potential that Hashem gave him. Now, I don't want to read, this is a great article, and I'll leave it on the screen for a minute for those who do want to read it. But I want to elaborate more verbally what's so important here. The transformation that's happening in this night of Yaakov to Yisrael, it's not a transformation of a swindler or a trickster or a deceit to righteousness. That's not what's happening. It's a transformation from humility to a sense of responsibility, to a sense of, it's not about me, but it's about what God needs from me. And when it's about like, who am I to do this? Who am I to be that person? Who am I to be a leader? Who am I to give a speech? Who am I to represent? Who am I to do this mitzvah? Who am I to write an article? Who am I to be anything? Which is, you may call it whatever you want. But it's a transformation from humility, from ignoring the potential, God-given potential that you have, to a sense of, God needs me because God gave me this opportunity, and God needs me to use every facet that in my being to do everything I can to fulfill God's mission. That's a transformation from Yaakov to Yisrael. And why does it have to happen at night? Why is nighttime so crucial? What does nighttime represent? Nighttime is the idea of Helem. Nighttime is the idea of concealment. Nighttime is the idea when darkness is not a entity of its own. It's just the lack of revelations, the lack of light. So things become concealed. Potential becomes concealed. Abilities become concealed. We forget who we are. We forget what we are. And using the idea of nighttime to realize that we're going to defy the darkness, defy the lack of light, and reveal the potential even in the face of darkness, is the greatness of conquering the night. And that's why the battle took place at night. When the dawn started to come, when it started to get light, the angel's like, let go of me. You don't need to transform me anymore because the light's already here. The revelation's already here. Your battle is won. You already have transformed everything you needed to transform. The full potential has been realized. You don't need to hold on to me anymore. You don't need to transform me because the light's about to turn on. The godliness is about to be revealed. The battle's over. The battle's over, meaning there's no more darkness. Let's go further. So I'm gonna skip that. Let's go to some text here. The famous Mishnah that says that in a place where there's no person, ish doesn't mean man. Ish means person. In a place where there's no person, ishtadel liyes ish. You should in other words, don't just wait for someone to come save you. Don't wait for someone to stand up. Be that person. It says in Pirkei Avot. And what does Maimonides say? The concept of try in this the concept of try in this context means to train your soul and draw it towards acquiring virtues when there are no wise people around to teach you. And then you must become your own teacher. And the Targum on this verse, and a man wrestled with Yaakov, translates it as the Ishtadel Gavra Ime, a man exerted himself with him. So it wasn't really an outside person. It was Yaakov battling his own demons, battling his own darkness. It was Yaakov battling the things that were holding him back from seeing his true potential. That's really what was keeping Yaakov, into keeping him into a deceit, into the swindler that had to steal the blessings, because he didn't have the confidence, he didn't have the sense of ownership of, I deserve this. So therefore, he had to keep on doing this under the cover of darkness. He had to keep on being this hidden Yaakov. And he was battling his own darkness. He was battling the angel of Esav, which was preventing revealing his true potential. And only once he won was he able to finally become a Yisrael. Was he finally be able to come out and say, I have proudly, that this is who I am. So now, why? So then he says, bless me. Tells the angel, bless me. So as Rashi says, bless me, admit that the blessings are mine. All right, let's end this battle once and for all. But there's also a deeper meaning of bless me. Bless me because now that I won, I want to elevate and transform and elevate the energy of Esav, and I want to be able to harness that energy into positivity. There's so much power and potential in Esav, as we learned. So what does the angel of Esav say? What is your name? Who are you? What do you see yourself as? Of course, I know who you are, but how do you see yourself? And then Yaakov comes to face with his true identity, and he says he's Yaakov. He says, I'm the guy who was holding on to other people's ankles. And the angel says, that's not who you are. The angel says, you are now Yisrael. You are now Yashar Kel. You are now the upright emissary of God. You are now the one who doesn't just hold the blessings, but you are the emissary of God. You are the one who is the light of God unto the other nations. You are now no longer someone who's deceit, someone who has to prance around, someone who has to hide in the darkness. But you are now Yisrael. See your true potential, see your true self. Bridge that gap. No longer see yourself as a Yaakov. You're now a Yisrael. You're now a leader. You have to be that leader. Your people need you. Your children need you. Your descendants need you. Your descendants need to see you as Yisrael, not Yaakov. They need to see you as the person who leads them, who's proud of who he is, who's confident in who he is, and doesn't apologize for who he is. Doesn't apologize for doing what he has to do. Doesn't apologize for having to destroy a city that kidnapped his daughter and raped her and destroyed the city of Shechem. Doesn't apologize for defending himself. Who doesn't apologize for existing. They need to see you as Yisrael. They don't need to see you as a Yaakov. From now on, you are Yisrael. So what does it mean that Yaakov was left alone? What does it mean that when he was left alone, that he is just alone, just like God is alone? What's the answer? Is that what brings out the true potential of a person? Is that there's a famous Gemara that says like this. This could be explained in the light of the Talmudic statement. Every person must say, the whole world was created for me. That the world was created for me. That's not meant to be a selfish statement. That's not meant to be, well, everything is for my own benefit. That's not what it means. But it means is that the world was created for you to fix it, for you to do something, not to wait for someone else to do something, but for you to do something. That God gave you the potential to do something about fixing the world. that God gave you to do the potential to accomplish something amazing. And you have to see that potential. You have to see that Yisrael in you. Not the Yaakov, but the Yisrael in you. So if you think about what that means, it's actually a powerful idea with practical implications. If the entire world was created for you, then you're essentially alone in it. And the whole world's existence depends on you. And if you behave appropriately, you sustain the world. And if not, God forbid, you bring it down. This also means that you never need to try and impress people or gain their approval. You're the main character and everyone else is secondary. You don't need them. They need you. In other words, your responsibility in fulfilling Hashem's mission in the world is completely what has to define your existence and define what you need to accomplish. That's a high level to reach, but once someone gets there, they can serve Hashem with complete focus without confusion or mixed motives. They're not pulled in different directions, and through that kind of service, all the forces of impurity lose their grip and are pushed aside by holiness and the Shekhinah. And that's what the Medrash is hinting at with the words, and Yaakov was left alone. It's describing the level he reached, where he truly saw himself as the only one in the world, with everything resting on him and his actions. And once he reached that clarity, Hashem alone will be exalted. His service was clean, whole, and focused. The distractions and negative forces faded away, and it became fully clear that Hashem alone exists. He is one, and his name is one. So, there's actually a story of somebody who once came to Y.Y. Jacobson to ask him for help, that he was having a very hard time to overcome his temptations, and to not do anything he wasn't supposed to do. And he needed some help, some motivation. How do I motivate myself not to do something that I feel lust for to do, if I don't feel like I have the power to overcome it? And Rabbi Jacobson was very distraught because he didn't really have he didn't feel like he had the right answer. So he said, let me think about it and I'll get back to you. And he gets back to this person and he says, I have an idea. The next time you're confronted with a potential, opportunity to do something wrong, imagine yourself in a stadium and you're a player in a stadium. Let's say baseball, right? So you're standing there with a bat and the pitcher is about to pitch you a ball and you have to hit the ball, and there's thousands of people watching to see if you're going to hit the ball or not, and all cheering for you. And they're all depending on you. They're the fans of your team. And they're all counting on you to hit a base hit because the base is loaded. The game is on the line. It's the ninth inning. And if you strike out, then the game is lost. But if you get a base hit, then the game is won. So all you have to do is literally just get a base hit and not strike out. And then your team wins and not loses. And everybody in the stadium and everybody watching on TV, it's thanks to you that the team wins. But if you don't do it, then the team loses. So the next time that you're faced with a challenge or a temptation, imagine that you're in that situation. And if God forbid you give in to the temptation, you're letting down all the fans that are watching, and everyone, all the souls, all your ancestors, everyone, the entire world is depending on you to overcome that temptation. The story resonates very strongly because the truth is we're all connected. We're all united. We may not like to acknowledge that because we don't want to be responsible for each other's weaknesses, but it's the fact. We're all connected. And therefore, when we do something right, and when we have to live up to our potential to do what we have to do, it benefits everyone else. And when we, God forbid, do something we're not supposed to do, we let down everyone else. So when we're talking about crave that a person has to say the world was created for me, it's not an exaggeration. The world depends on your actions. The world depends on you to do the right thing in order for the world to exist, in order for the world to be blessed. God forbid the opposite. It's not just about you and your own happiness and whatever else you might think it depends on it. The whole world depends on it. And therefore, by Yivasa Yaakov Levadai, by seeing yourself alone, means you're seeing the potential that you have by doing what Hashem wants you to do. It's a beautiful quote from the Baal Shem Tov. And this is about false humility. The Chassidic teachings is very strong in humility. Musar is very strong in humility as well. But one thing that humility could sometimes be misrepresented by false humility. Humility doesn't mean putting yourself down or not seeing yourself as seeing yourself as a nobody. That's not humility. Humility is being honest about who you are, but also thanking God for giving you everything you have, and being humble about the fact that it's thanks to Hashem that you have everything that you have. But denying what you have, or denying potential, or denying opportunity, or denying fulfilling the mission that you have, that you're given, that's false humility. And here's what the Baal Shem Tov says: humility can sometimes backfire, can actually distance one from serving Hashem. Because when someone sees themselves as lowly, they may not believe that their Torah and prayer bring blessing to all the worlds. All the worlds meaning the spiritual worlds too. Or that even the angels are sustained by their spiritual work. But if they truly believed that, imagine how joyfully and reverently they would serve Hashem, overwhelmed by the weight and privilege of it. Take this to heart and remind yourself that you are a ladder standing on earth with its top reaching the heavens. Every step you take and every word you speak and every action you do, it all leaves a mark above. As the Maggid message said, Da ma l'mayla mimach, there's a statement that says you should know what's above you, but the Maggid message reframed it and says, Da ma l'mayla, know that everything that's above you, all the spiritual worlds and all the angels and all the praises of Hashem and everything that exists above, mimach, comes from the words that you say, comes from the actions that you do in this world. Now, this is from the Hayam Yom, or this is brought down in Hayam Yom, that a person has to be honest about their shortcomings, but they also have to be aware of their strengths. So now, before I read this, I want to make sure we don't lose sight of the Yaakov message here. Why did Yaakov ask the angel his name? So the angel asks Yaakov his name and says, "What's your name?" He says, "Yaakov." He says, "Your name is no longer Yaakov. Your name is Yisrael." So why does Yaakov want to know the angel's name? He tells the angel to bless him, but why does he want to know the angel's name? He obviously knows it's an angel. So yeah, he has to know it's an angel. He just battled the angel. Why does he want to know the angel's name? So, and the angel doesn't give him the name. The angel says, "What's the difference? Like, you don't need to know my name." So I want to try to explain this with a concept in Chassidus, that the name of a person is a bit of an oxymoron. I don't know if that's the right terminology here. The name of a person, on the one hand, it's very external to a person because your name only exists because for other people to connect to you. In other words, if you live on an island alone, you don't need a name, because unless someone has to talk to you or know you or differentiate you between someone else, you don't need a name. You don't have to, unless you don't talk to yourself with your name. But on the other hand, a name, it says, connects to your soul. In fact, if somebody passes out or faints, you're supposed to whisper their name, their name into their ear. There's something very special. There's a soul connection between a name of a person and their soul. So is it an external thing or is it an internal thing? As we see with Yaakov and Yisrael, that represented his identity. So the idea here of Yaakov wanting to know the angel's name is interesting, because he wanted to understand what his accomplishments represented. Because an angel is all about, every angel has a mission, right? Every angel it's about what they're like. Michael is the angel of love, the angel of giving, the angel of defense, the defense attorney of the Jewish people. Gavriel means strong. Gavriel is the avenging angel, or the strong angel, or Gavriel is the one who destroyed Sodom. Raphael, for example, is the healing angel. But every angel has a mission, and their name represents their identity. So Yaakov was now harnessing this potential of this angel, and he wanted to understand what he was dealing with, like what potential he was just unlocking, what level of energy, of God's energy, he was now privy to through the victory of this angel. He now discovered his own. Remember, the whole purpose of that all the commentaries is that he was looking in a mirror and seeing his true self, that he's no longer Yaakov and that he's Yisrael. Okay, great. And now I know who I am. But I also want to know who you are. Because by knowing who you are, I can understand better how to harmonize and elevate your potential as well. One of the most important factors of seeing your true potential is that by doing that, you're able to elevate others as well. There's a famous psychologist, I don't remember his name, but he writes there's like different levels of self-confidence. And there's like a whole like chain of say of people who are confident and like characteristics of like what self-confident people do. I don't remember exactly each level, but I remember that the highest level of self-confidence is someone who makes other people feel confident. In other words, true confident people, like the second highest level is someone who doesn't need anyone else's affirmation, someone who doesn't need anyone else's validation. That's like, the second highest level of self-confidence. But the highest level is someone who has the ability to make other people, no matter who they are, feel good about themselves too. That's the ultimate self-confidence. What Yaakov was achieving here with realizing his own potential is now seeing the potential of others and harnessing the potential of others. That is the true mark of now you're Yisrael. It's not enough to just be fully maximized potential individual, because like we said, we're all connected. Now, what's the next step? Help the person next to you reveal their true potentials. What's your name? How do I help you see your true potential? Now, obviously, in this case, it's an angel, so he's trying to harness that energy, whatever. But the point is how do I elevate this individual? How do I help this individual see their true potential? And what does the angel say? That Hashem's gonna bless you in base scale, and so on and so forth, because that's all part of the harnessing of the energy. Point being is that one thing leads to another, that when Yaakov won the battle, it led to the next step of elevation of every possible opportunity. And this is true in our own lives. When we become true to ourselves of who we are and who we're meant to be, it's not just going to be a fulfilling a step in our own lives. It's not just going to be a fulfilling life journey, but it's actually going to elevate those around us, and it's meant to elevate those around us. When you look for a team leader, for a company, for a business, for a football team, doesn't matter. You look for someone who's successful, who's good in any position. One of the highest characteristics you could look for is someone who elevates those around them. And that's what we're looking for in Yaakov, in Yisrael, is we're looking for the individual in ourselves that is confident in who they are, could see themselves as a Yisrael. We want to see ourselves as a Yisrael to the point that we can elevate those around us. And there's a beautiful quote from Rav Nachman of Breslov. It says like this: that Amar Rabbeinu HaKadosh, that the Nachman of Breslov said, "I stood before him stunned, my thoughts overwhelmed by the idea. He responded with a hint of rebuke, saying, 'And if you have faith, do you have no faith in yourself?' He immediately quotes the sages. 'What causes the righteous to lose their reward in the world to come? The smallness, the false humility,' I added those words, 'they had within themselves. They didn't believe in themselves. The real smallness of their faith wasn't in God, it was in themselves. They didn't believe that they didn't believe that God is truly good to all, and they too are precious and important in his eyes.' And that's where the smallness came from. A person must believe in themselves, and they too are beloved to God. Because the greater God's goodness is, the more it means you too are great and significant in his eyes. And it's a sin not to believe that. So therefore, believing in yourself is so important. So just as a person must believe in Hashem, they also must believe in themselves. In other words, you must believe Hashem has a relationship with you. And Hashem created you for a reason. You're not some aimless creature here one day and gone the next, like an animal in the field that disappears after death. Rather, you must believe that your soul comes from the source of life, and Hashem takes pleasure and is delighted whenever you do what Hashem wants. And therefore, you have a specific mission in this world. And that's what Yaakov was battling for. He was trying to help teach us how to achieve that sense of overcoming those battles, overcoming those struggles of not seeing our true potential and being able to reveal that. And telling us that we will win this battle. We have a guarantee from Hashem that we will win this battle. And we have to fight it. And every once in a while we're going to take a hit. But knowing that in the end we're going to win that battle and we're going to be end up with the Yisrael because we have that blessing from Yaakov to be the Yisrael. So Yaakov's struggle wasn't just personal, it was on the behalf of all future events, challenges, and spiritual dynamics that would unfold through the generations that would come from him. Through that battle, Yaakov, our forefather, paved the way for us because of his immense spiritual capacity, he was able to defeat the negative forces so they wouldn't harm his descendants in the future. Yaakov foresaw all the generations to come and sought to prepare a path for them to walk in Hashem's ways and to subdue all the forces of opposition. That's the meaning behind the wrestling described in the Torah, and the man wrestled with him. It is for the sake of his children and in the future generations and in the way to the coming of Mashiach, and that's why the Torah says it lasted until the break of dawn, which refers to the verse in Yeshaya that the light will burst forth like dawn, which is a reference to the era of Mashiach, because then the evil will be transformed. So ultimately, Yaakov was fighting that battle that will lead to the coming of Mashiach, that when we all could see the Yisrael within us, and that we all could overcome those challenges that prevent us from seeing our true selves, that is how we end the darkness and we can actually bring about the dawn. So the bottom line is you cannot underestimate yourselves. You have to realize Hashem put you here on purpose. There's no one else who could do your mission in this world. You have to see yourself as you are the only person in this world, just like Yaakov was alone, you are alone in this world. And you are here alone because Hashem needs you in this world. And when you realize that and see that and overcome the struggles that prevent you from seeing that, you'll be able to not just elevate yourself, but elevate those around you and be able to fulfill that mission that Hashem has for you. And which is for us, that mission, as the Rebbe told us, is to bring Mashiach and to end the darkness and bring about the dawn of the light of godliness, to reveal godliness in this world and bring about the end of the suffering, the end of the exile with the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu. So thank you all so much. Thanks for joining. And of course, you're welcome to unmute yourself if you have any questions.